The following is an encore presentation of stories from the Dooralong Transformation Centre. Sam, not quite such a beautiful day here. We've got a bit of drizzle and a bit of cool, but look, after yesterday, I'm very happy with this. What about you, Narrell? You happy with this weather?
I am.
Yeah.
Very happy. It's time for a cool change.
Narrell's I guess, from Dooralong Transformation Centre. I'm guessing it's a bit cool at Dooralong, a bit warm on hot days.
It is. It is really, really warm out there in the sticks in the middle of the mountains. But there's a lot of moisture, so that sort of.
And you've got the pool.
And we've got the pool.
Yeah, that's good. So you must have seen Dooralong in all its seasons. You've been there how long now?
8 months.
Yeah. And you're looking forward to moving on.
I am. I'm actually in the last phase of the program, which is called re-entry. So I get to look at re-entering back out there into the big wide world and putting all things that I've learnt in place to take with me.
So you've had a challenging but sort of rewarding journey, I think, haven't you, at Dooralong?
It's been wonderful. It's
wonderful.
Just been spiritually, mentally, physically, just a brilliant journey. And I would recommend it to anyone that was suffering in any way, in any addiction.
And your addiction, what was your addiction?
Drinking.
Drinking.
Yeah.
Yep. And look, I was listening to you talking on the breakfast show to Mick and Kath, and it struck me that you're a little bit different to most of the guests we've had at Dooralong, because we talked to them and they had really horrible childhoods, no fault of their own circumstances, and their addiction started young. But you were telling me just now, before we came on air, that your childhood wasn't too bad. You actually enjoyed school.
I did. I threw myself into school, and I love sports and things like that. So, yeah, I think being in such a small town, coming from a small town too, not much to do there. We sort of, you long to go back to school from holidays, and where I come from, it's a town on two rivers, the Murray and the Darling, where it meets, so a lot of river fun, and a lot of camping, and
strong sense of community in the...
And that's right. I can say I had a pretty good childhood.
Pretty good childhood, and things are okay, I think you were telling me, for the first 30 years of your life. So you did the normal thing, you left school, you sort of dated, you eventually got married. Yeah, everything's going fine for you, or not?
Back then?
Yes.
Yes, it was actually. I married the local policeman's son, and then we went into the army. We had our first child, and then he went back into the army, and we spent 6 years in Wagga Wagga while he was at Kapuka there at the army barracks.
And what's it like as a serviceman's wife? We do hear that sometimes it can be really tough because, the husband's sent abroad and away a lot of the time, and having to bring up the kids on your own. How did you respond to army life?
When he first went in, there was a lot of training, so he had to stay away for quite some time to do his training, and then he call transferred from one job into another, so that made more training. So I had to sort of do it on my own with the children. But we had a beautiful home. We just and the army is just a huge family home, and it just embraces you, and there's such.
So you felt supported?
Totally supported, and before you actually go in as a family with children, you get psych tested and all of this sort of stuff before you go in to make sure that you're okay while your husband's away. So, and
they look after you
and
well.
they look after us very well.
So the addiction hasn't started yet. Again, at this stage of your life, things are looking pretty good.
So I was a strong mum, and I love being a mother.
How many kids have you got now?
I have 4 children. They're all young adults. So the youngest is 15, so he's with his dad at the moment.
So there you are in Wagga Wagga, living on base. It's a life that you enjoy. It's a good, supportive community that you're in. Hey, this sounds a horrible question, but when did things start going wrong for you, Narrell? Because it all sounds good at the moment.
Yes, it did. About 8 years into the marriage, I sort of fell out of love with my husband, which was very, very sad. So we departed, and he went home to our hometown. He got discharged actually from the army for medical reasons, so he actually went back to our hometown, and I ended up staying in Wagga Wagga for the next 3 or 4 years, and yeah, so I still sort of pursued my life, as I said to you before. You know, I got a Cert 3 in hairdressing. My passion was hairdressing, and I struggled with the kids through that.
Yeah, because you're a single mum now, so it's getting tough.
Yeah, and but I ended up finishing that, and whatever, and I ended up in another relationship with another guy, and that didn't go very well, and that sort of which led me into a bit of heartache and
emotionally, sort of really
mentally, emotionally. It was tough, and it was a challenge, and I ended up moving to Newcastle to get support with my mother and her partner at the time.
So that's the connection with the Central Coast, I suppose.
That is, yeah.
So you moved back to be with your mum?
I did, I needed some support. With that.
I think we can understand that. Single mum, children, mum, help me. So you moved back to Newcastle, and how long were you living in Newcastle for?
I've been in Newcastle for quite some time, actually.
So you've stayed in Newcastle?
Yeah, I did I went home for I think about 3 years, and to be closer to my 2 other children, and but ended up coming back to Newcastle. I always call it my second home. I just absolutely love the Central Coast. Yeah.
And then something must have happened around the age of 30 that led you to turn to drink.
Well, when I went to live with my mum and her partner, they are pretty heavy drinkers, but also, they're full-time workers, and they enjoy their drinks after work and on the weekends and things. I sort of thought, well, if I'm going to socialise with a family, this is the way they're socialising, so
I don't want to be the odd one out.
Which I was for a wee bit, until I thought, no, I'm gonna have a drink with them on the weekends and things like that. So
and look, I mean, that's perfectly normal, isn't it? We all sort of, those of us who do drink, we have a drink and we socialise, and there's no crime in that at all. So you must have at that stage thought, oh, it's okay, I'll just have a drink with them at the weekend, and thought no more of it than that.
That's dead right.
Yes,
but then it was relationships that sort of threw me in the deep end. So having that domestic violence relationship and being like that was the big downfall for me, and which threw me into heavy addiction.
So it was no longer social drinking, you were drinking. Why were you drinking at that stage? When has it become a problem? Was it you tell me.
Just to stop the feeling, stop the hurt and the pain, and throw on that mask, I guess.
To sort of numb the pain, take it away. It was an escape.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. And were you what some people call a functioning alcoholic? Were you still able to hold down a job and sort of go out to work and earn a living?
Yes, I was. Yeah, a functioning alcoholic. I worked at a processing plant, which were long hours. It was, they call it dog watch shifts.
Yeah.
And I managed.
Did your mum and her partner know that something was happening with Narrell? Did they spot that it's becoming a problem?
They spotted the fact that the relationship was a problem, and it's trying to guide me and help me in that sense away from that hurt and pain. Yeah, more or less. Yeah, the relationship.
The violent, abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Whereas you were also trying to distance yourself from that, but in another way, through drink.
Which caused a lot of a rebelling effect as well.
Yeah.
And being in denial and.
So it's all getting rather messy now.
Really, really messy. Yeah.
Yeah. After years where things were going okay, it had your ups and downs, but things were okay, and now there's abuse in your life. There's violence in your life, there's alcohol in your life, and there's now issues with your mum and her partner. So, yeah, things are getting messy for you.
Yeah.
Look, we don't want to leave you in that situation, but we're going to, at least for the next. And here we go. Yes, you're tuned to Rima.cc, your favourite Christian radio channel. And with us this morning, Narrell from Dooralong Transformation Centre. We were talking to Narrell before, and she was explaining how for the first 30 years of her life, it was probably a very ordinary life, if lives can be called ordinary, in that she had married, but unfortunately things didn't work out, as they often don't. She's got young children, but things are progressing okay. And then she enters into a relationship which is an abusive relationship where violence is there, and for those reasons and other reasons, Narrell has turned to alcohol to escape, I guess. Is that right, Narrell?
Yes.
Just to escape?
Yeah.
And you're living in Newcastle at this stage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must have got pretty bad for you, that alcohol addiction. How bad did it get?
It got really, really bad. The relationship that I was in was just so tormenting. It was just terrible. So, yeah, that's how I
So were you drinking first thing in the morning?
I was binge drinking as well. Like, I would drink 3 to 4 days, from the time I woke up to whenever I went to bed. I'd drink to blackout.
Just to blot out this abusive relationship. Yeah. And how long was this going on for?
Just counting before, actually. I spent probably about the last 10, maybe 10, 11 years, actually.
It's a long time.
Being like,
yeah,
drinking quite heavily.
And then there must have come a turning point, because we know, of course, that you're at Dooralong, but how did you find out about Dooralong?
I actually went into detox in the Mater Hospital in Newcastle, and on their walls in there they have lots of pamphlets of all different sorts of things, and I actually just picked up one which has said Dooralong Transformation Centre, and it's a rehab. So having a read, and I just thought, and I just knew that was the place that I needed to go.
You'd never heard of it before?
Never heard of it before, no.
But you knew you had to go?
It was like I had a calling, I had to go.
Yeah, it's amazing. So what did you do? You just pick up the phone and give them a ring?
I spent the next month in detox, and then I picked up the phone while I was in detox, and I rang them from detox and did the intake on the phone.
Yeah.
And and then within, I think, a week, I was heading to Wyong.
Down the Yarramalong Valley.
That's right. And
beautiful place.
Through those gates of Dooralong.
Yeah. First impressions?
It's a beautiful, beautiful place.
It is a beautiful place. Yeah. You said you arrived on a Wednesday, which meant that the very first thing you probably had to experience was chapel night. Is that right?
That is right. So it was
bit confronting?
Very overwhelming.
Yeah. And is the first few weeks the worst?
The induction stage is pretty daunting.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a struggle, and you have to push yourself through it. But
were there times where you thought, "Oh, look, this isn't for me. It's too hard. There's the gate. I'm just going to leave."
Yeah, I had thought of that quite often, actually. But I just kept bringing it back to the day and why I was in there and what I was doing it for. So. To
the alternative was even worse.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so you stuck at it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been there now for 8 months?
Yes.
You've also met Jesus for the first time at Dooralong?
Yes, my saviour.
Yeah. Tell me about that, because as you were telling me a little just off air, whilst everybody else was listening to Leland, you were telling me that you were initially resistant to the sort of the Christianity, the enforced, you've got to go to chapel business. That didn't sit comfortably with you right at the very start, did it?
No. It took time for me to sort of embrace the fact that, you know, I was in a Christian rehab. And not having a connection with Jesus. And
so what was your before you went to Dooralong, if somebody had come alongside you and said, "Hey Narrell, I'm a Christian," what would you have thought of them? What was your stereotype of a Christian?
Just someone, I guess.
Come on, be honest.
Bible bashing Christian.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that is honest, and I think it's also true that we haven't really been good ambassadors for Jesus, I don't think, have we?
No, that's right.
Jesus would come along people and love them into submission, and as you say, sometimes the impression is that we come alongside people and Bible bash them into submission. Yeah. So there were some negative sort of stereotypes and impressions that you had, but then there was a Thursday night.
That Thursday night.
Thursday night. Tell us what happened on that Thursday night.
Well, we have a session on Thursday night in chapel, which is called prayer group, and something said that I needed to go to check out this prayer group.
So this was the first time you'd been to it?
First time that I've been to it. And anyway, I went in and I sat in on the class, and we had to pray that, you know, we could see some sign or you know, just to let us know that Jesus was, you know, he was real and he was there. And so I prayed hard for that. I prayed that I needed to see him, and I needed him to do something to me to show me that, you know, he was there.
Yeah,
and
make yourself known.
Yeah. And it was really weird because he touched the back of my head.
So you physically felt something? I
physically felt him. So, and I kid you not, I did.
No, I believe you.
I felt him,
yeah.
and because I asked him that I needed something. I needed a sign.
Yeah.
And some people might think that will say that I'm crazy, but that happened.
There are too many stories like that for them to be crazy.
Yes, yeah. That's right.
So
that's
at
right.
that moment, did you say, what was your reaction? You felt somebody touching your hand? What happened?
He actually touched the back of my ponytail.
Right.
Like he was wrapping his finger around my hair, yeah. I was beside myself.
Freaked out.
Yeah, and I just and I couldn't get the smile off of my face, and I just had this feeling of just total, I don't know, happiness.
Joy.
I was just joy. Yeah, it was amazing. I felt like running up and down the chapel screaming.
So it happened in an instant, really, for you, didn't it?
Yeah.
And how's that changed your life?
Immensely. It has changed my life immensely. Just to have him to be able to speak to, he's a huge tool in my kit bag to be able to take to the outside world, and to have my faith and be able to turn to him in times of need is just awesome.
And knowing that he's always that close, that he can actually reach out and just touch you. He's that close to you and will be for the rest of your earthly life.
That's right.
Yeah. So from that moment onwards, you would go back to chapel with renewed enthusiasm, I'm guessing.
Oh, totally, yeah. I ended up joining the worshiping team so, you know, I could worship him and just be more connected with my spirituality, and that's just been an amazing journey on its own as well.
And how is the addiction side of things for you now?
Well, I don't sort of worry about my addiction anymore. I used to worry about it, you know, not being able to have that one drink, not being able to socialise and things like that, and knowing that I can't just have one drink because it just doesn't end there at one drink. So I'm not fearful of that anymore. I'm now sort of in the process of what and how to not take myself back into that lifestyle and what led me to do that. So
Well, we'll talk about that sort of that next chapter of your life, I suppose it is. We're talking to Narrell. We were talking just before that break about Narrell's, what should we say? Narrell's discovery of Jesus one Thursday at one particular moment when he made himself very known. And since then, you've just embraced that whole idea of God and Jesus and spirituality, haven't you, Narrell?
Yes, I have.
Means the world to you?
As I said to you before, it's very humbling. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing feeling.
You're on the worship team now at Dooralong. You go out to a local church every Sunday?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I go to Longjetty every Sunday, and yeah.
It's a different person than the person that went in the gates of Dooralong, isn't it, really?
It is.
The one that's going out looks the same, but inside it's all changed.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I have, and loving and embracing the change.
Yeah. And talking about going out, you've been there 8 months, and you told us right at the outset you're into, what do you call it, the re-entry stage?
Mm-hmm.
So what does that involve?
That just looks at re-establishing you out there in the real world, so to speak. So just putting things in place like sponsor, finding where you can go to AA or NA meetings, housing and jobs. And
so they make sure that you've got a good support network wherever you're going to. They make sure that you know where the local AA meetings are and all the rest of it.
Yeah, so it's all about setting up and putting all your tools and things in place for when you re-enter.
And you been living in Newcastle for a long time. Will you be going back to Newcastle or back to where you were originally from, Victoria?
No, I'm going down to my hometown, which is Wentworth, but I won't be staying in Wentworth. I'll be staying in Mildura, Victoria. Yes, I'm going to be residing with my daughter and my granddaughter for the first time. So it's going to be very different, but I'm really, really excited about that.
Yeah. And your daughter and your grandkids, they excited?
Yes, I think she is actually.
Yeah.
Nanny's going to come home and be the nanny babysitter.
What does your daughter make of the change that's happened in you over the last 8 months?
They're just absolutely loving it, having a new me, and I'm just being able to sit and talk to me now, and for the kids to be able to express, how they're feeling, and just have a sober and clean mother to be able to, chat to now.
And your grandkids, how old are they?
Lexi is just over 2, and then Amity, I think Amy's about 4 months.
Oh.
And then I have 2 grandchildren here in Newcastle as well, so...
Much like Grandma.
Yeah. So
you're looking forward to that new role in your life of being the much-loved grandma?
I am, most definitely I am, yeah.
So you've been moving down to Victoria. That's a long way from Dooralong, isn't it? It would be natural, I think, to have some sort of anxiety or apprehensiveness about that?
Yeah, I was only thinking the other day, actually, about that and not being near it, because a lot of participants come back on chapel night and, spend time... just coming back to chapel night and being just back there in that atmosphere again. But I mean, they're only a phone call away. I can always call my caseworker.
Yeah.
I can, and talk to them. And
wherever you are in Australia, you're not going to be too far away from the Salvation Army Church anyway, are you?
No.
So the style of worship and that connection that you've built up with the Salvation Army, that can be sort of re-established anywhere, even in Victoria.
That's right. So that's what I'll be definitely looking for when I go home, is to find a Salvation Army church and, and hopefully be able to do some volunteer work and give back to them as well. Will be awesome.
And what about Narrell herself? What goals, apart from being a terrific grandma, what sort of personal goals have you got for the rest of your life?
Well, while I was in Dooralong, I did a 7-week course in community service, which was really, really good. So I'd like to do the Cert 4 and then maybe go on to the diploma and work in the drug and alcohol sector and just take that back into the Aboriginal community back in my hometown and
That's terrific.
Take a little bit of what I've learnt back into that sector of health.
It's amazing, isn't it? But here you were 8 months ago, a functioning but nevertheless an alcoholic who used to go on binges 4 or 5 days at a time, blackout, drunk, no hope in the life, living in an abusive relationship. Came to Dooralong, then one Thursday night, Jesus just touched you.
That he did.
That he did. And like we were saying before, even down in Victoria, he's still near enough just to touch you again. So it's going to be great, isn't it?
That's right. He's always going to be by my side.
Yeah. Have you any words of advice for anybody out there who may realise that they are slipping into an addiction? Perhaps like you, they started drinking to blot something out, or for whatever reason, but now they're becoming aware that actually I'm now drinking daily, and if I'm not very careful, this is going to be a big problem for me. What advice would you give to somebody in that situation?
At first, you would have to be willing to know that that you are slipping and that you are living this. What can you call it? Roller coaster of life.
Yeah. So you have to be aware that there is a developing problem. Yeah,
and you have to, want to change, and So I would suggest, to, if it was that bad and life was just, you're thinking of, the thoughts of not living, this is not working, is to get yourself along to a detox, and
And you mentioned AA. That's a good place to start, would it be?
Yeah, and meetings, and you can Google them. They're everywhere.
Yes.
So get along there to a meeting, and they're a real eye opener to be able for helping you in the direction of life of being able to
So in
help
your
with
experience, this isn't something you can handle on your own. You do, however strong you think you might be, you're not strong enough to beat it. You do need some outside intervention. You do need some outside help, support.
That's right. You can't do it on your own.
Yeah.
It's too hard.
You're kidding yourself.
That's right. And
so swallow your pride and just get help.
However you try, and your powerful mind tries to tell you that you can deal with this and you can get through, you can't. You have to succumb. You have to give up. And you need help. And those are the avenues. You need the detox. You need to go to rehab. You need your AA meetings. You need your church. You need your Jesus. You
need help.
You need help. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for those words, Narrell. And it's been great talking to you. We always finish off saying this, but it's sincerely meant every time, that we really do pray God's blessing on your life and for your trip down to Victoria, and the rest of your life down there, being a terrific grandmother for the kids down there and the kids up at Newcastle. We know that God, well, He's touched you literally once. He will touch your life for the rest of your earthly time, and we thank God for doing that.
Thank you, God.
You've been listening to an encore presentation of the Dooralong stories, which can be heard live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and repeated 8 p.m. Sunday and 1 a.m. Wednesday, right here on 94.9 rema.cc.